journey of life. With every drop of water comes life. With every life comes memories. Each memory that is shared creates a legacy to be remembered. Atosha Gardens, your cemetery of choice.
Good day, viewers. My name is Rufu Rwakarongeka, and welcome to another episode of Rufu Rwakarongeka. With me here is Mr. Mende, the Managing Director of Atosha Gardens. Mr. Mende, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning, viewers. Good morning or good day to the viewers.
Thank you. So in our last episode of Padare, we covered a number of things about Atosha Gardens, and this is a continuation of that. Mr. Mende, I've been thinking about our tagline, Rufu Rwakarongeka. This is not an easy tagline, and it is not an issue which I believe that a lot of the viewers are ready to talk about. Would you want to unpack for us the whole idea of Rufu Rwakarongeka to us?
Well, we are born, we will die. Some of us, our mothers and fathers, are no more. And most of us, our grandparents, are no more. And you can stretch 10 generations. Those that were there 10 generations ago are no more. So it's a given that what is born shall die. But society struggles to deal with this, myself included. You can have a death in the family, follow one after another within a space of days, weeks, hours, and there is no one death that is any more acceptable than the next. We all want to live into perpetuity. Yet, the Creator made it such that we have to go. If you were to persuade him to keep you alive, and I was reading the other day, there is a man somewhere in the world who is 160 years old. That man, although he is said to be still walking and still coherent, I'm sure he's not enjoying life anymore because he can't relate to anybody. Everybody around him is now alien. So he has to go. Unfortunately, we can't kill him, but he is now out of place. That makes the statement that we have to accept that we will go. But society generally, despite this being a reality, a given, is not ready. And almost funeral after funeral, there is chaos. There is panic. And we are saying some of the panic is not necessary. Yes, we may not accept death. Actually, we don't accept death. But exactly as Amai buys my napkin for Mwana, has baby shower for Mwana when she is pregnant, we too have partially started that preparation. Many of us have got funeral plans, but we don't have a burial plan. And as a result, people go to the parlor to go and bury, only to wake up to realize that, yes, we have preparations. The parlor has collected the body. The body is ready to go and rest. But where is the body going to rest? And it is a requirement made upon us by the burial order, because you can't bury the person. And the Mujiti office says, okay, you've come, you want to bury, where are you going to bury? then suddenly phone calls start ringing. Where are you going to bury him? And there is argument, kumusha, cemetery, or whatever. And we are saying people need to get organized. You don't need to make death any more difficult. You have a funeral policy, just extend by adding a burial policy. Be organized. Go and get a funeral planner. Exactly like you get a wedding planner, so that this thing is passed on to someone else. The black community is very rich in culture. We have masawira. This is their role. Kana pafiwa vaudze vafonerei kuti iko sawira wenyu afa, and let them take care. Imimi chisara mchichema mchita zvamunoita. But let's prepare anasawira vedu kuti iko vange vachigona kuita basa ravo rekuproceed to bury our deceased.
Mr. Men, thank you for that. I understand that you play via your company Itosha. You play in this industry. What kind of resistance have you gotten from potential players in the industry in terms of being open to the idea of preparing for afterlife, and where do you think we are as the African community in understanding that no matter what, we still need to prepare for death, and these are the issues that we need to talk to with people before we leave, so that we don't leave a huge burden of people? Do you think we are there yet in terms of that?
Well, let me start by saying it's not an African thing. I only Africanize it because I am in an African country. I can't Europeanize it because I have never been a European. The European or white community have their issues, and Rufu Rwakarongeka applies to them as well, I believe. But I believe it is something that is more topical with us, the black community, because we have a culture that has made death a huge burden. There are cultural issues that need to be dealt with. Society must accept. We have, in our small way, created a path by creating Itosha Cemetery, which is operating two divisions, Itosha Gardens, as we see here, and Itosha Memorial, where we are trying to do our best to help people kuti vange vakarongeka kana nguva yerufu ichinge yakwana, so that we bring in preparedness to society. And we hope that our small hand is paving the way.
Well, yeah. So we now need to dive a little bit into Itosha Gardens, so that you explain to us perhaps the genesis of the company, and what it is doing, and perhaps the products that we are offering to the market.
Okay. Many people will know me as a real estate person, as a housing person. I have been in Shelter Zimbabwe for the last 40 years. And we accidentally bought a piece of land in Rua, which initially was meant to be my mother's home. She lived there for many years until urbanization forced her out. She was visited by some ugly fellows who wanted to do ugly things on a robe, amongst others. And we were forced to move her into urban life, which was very unlike my mother. She was a country girl who enjoyed nothing but mukamundakavo, ke nzungu, ke zviyo, ke nyimo, ke rice, and all kinds of things. But we forced out of that, or we were forced to remove out of that environment. When she left, we then thought, well, we will extend it into farming. And the reason we were going to extend it into farming was because she was in farming land. And so the thought was, we cut it up into 1.5 hectare pieces of land, and my mother can, and other people can, have land and do what they know best, particularly for retirement and for passive income for a lot of people, piggery, poultry, amongst other things. We were stopped by water. Our piece of land does not have enough water underground because we were going to have to produce 72 pieces of 72 plots, and to water 72 plots was just not going to happen. So we had to look for plan B. And we thought, well, we are real estate people, we are in housing, farming has failed, what can we do with this land? And we realized that, our residents will want resident later where they don't need water. And that's the genesis of Etosha. That's how we started that one cemetery, which has now grown into another one that is coming up very soon in Manicaland. We hope we will be in every part of the world. And I think we are in every part of the country, actually, with our Kumusha Ekaya product, where we will bury people in their rural home. Obviously, the land won't belong to us. Our job is to prepare a decent destination for our residents.
It's interesting that you talked about the Kumusha Ekaya project, because my next question was going to be, there is a bit of resistance because guess what? 60% of the people in Zimbabwe live in the rural areas, and perhaps they believe that if I live in the rural areas where land is abundant, I might want to get buried there. So perhaps if you can explain to us the Kumusha Ekaya project, explaining how it then taps into that market that prefers to be buried in the rural.
Land is an infinite resource. Our people, Kumusha, are sitting on land. I was raised in Zimba. When I grew up, land was abundant. Tairima and the biggest parts of Mindaedu Yai Rarira is not anybody. I remain. Nobody asked a question. Nobody bothered. But now there is a scramble. In my village, there is not enough land for everybody that is there. Since I was born, my village now has 3 generations after me, and it won't be long before they have their generations. Where will their people be buried? So we have to talk about this. For now, our first step is to go and do a decent burial, and our plea to society, starting nemadzimambo edu nana masabhuku edu, is kuti ngative ine masymmetry kumusha, for a start, because zvekusiya makuva pachuru muberevere member is not the way to go, because misha iyoyo yakutengeswa, and vanhu vatiri kutengesera maakuvasiyira makuva asiri hama dzavo vavasina kumboona. How do they live with that? People struggle with that. This connects to you, but you're not going to be there forever. So for that reason, we are appealing that society, that our leadership, our traditional leadership, our rural leadership, accepts our request that there are cemeteries, Kumusha. But in those cemeteries, we are going a stage further, and we are saying, why are we burying one person in a grave? Why can't we bury 3, 4 people in a grave? The same family, for that matter. Because there is going to be 3, 4, 5 people, 10 people in a family if you look, 10 generations down the line. So why don't we prepare land so that we do that? But better still, why aren't we cremating? That is another discussion.
Mr. Mende, after the break, we are going to talk about the idea of cremation, which I sense that a lot of people, especially here in Zimbabwe, are not ready for. You take us through the experiences that you have had so far and what you would like to appeal to the people out there to reconsider to do with cremation. So, guys, we're going to take a short break. We'll be back soon. Stay tuned.
Etosha Gardens is your cemetery of choice, situated 27 kilometers from Harare along Mutare Road, 1 kilometer south of Goromonzi turnoff in Rua. Etosha Memorial. We are hoping that this will be fully developed and ready for business in 2023. Although we have opened the crypt section, which is a section found in Etosha Memorial Park. Etosha Memorial Park offers crypts for burial of ashes. One slot in a crypt can accommodate at most 4 urns. Etosha offers space for current and future burials. We provide a clean, serene, and tranquil atmosphere for our dear departed and their families coming to visit. In Etosha Gardens, we have 5 sections operating: the Dam, Family, Infants, Muhacha, and Donodzo. All our graves are designed for multiple burials, what we call bunker burials, meaning that families can have at least 2 members share a plot, for example, a spouse and siblings. At Etosha, one can buy a block in the family or dam sections as families, friends, burial societies, churches, and corporates. These offer space for 4 or 10 double plots, but larger units can be made available by arrangement. To assist better planning and better preparedness, we are encouraging that people buy plots for future burial for cash or through our pay plan. The pay plan ranges from 1 to 20 years and is only available for future burials. For more details, visit our office at number 95 5 Avenue, Harare, or site office at Cemetery, 1 kilometer off Mutare Road opposite Goromonzi turnoff. Or contact us on, remember, +263 773 783 953. Or Malvin, +263 712 588 186. Daddy, 0771 710 958. Pauline, 0771 710 950. Or call us on our landline 242 255 052 or 254 202. Or email sales@etoshagardens.co.zw. Etosha Gardens, your cemetery of choice. And Etosha Memorial Park. Hamaye Pejko, isihlobo esiseduze.
A journey of life. With every drop of water comes life. With every life comes memories. Each memory that is shared creates a legacy to be remembered. Etosha Gardens, your cemetery of choice.
Hello, viewers. Welcome back to Rufu Rwakarongeka. Before we went on break, Mr. Mende, we were talking about the fact that we need to preserve land wisely. And one of the ways of doing that is to make sure that we can bury more than one individual in a grave. And also the issue of cremation. So what has been the appetite like, based on your experience with your company, Etosha? Are the people in Zimbabwe willing to accept burying more than one individual in a grave, and the issue of burying ashes?
Burying ashes is an Africa challenge. Remember, we are colonial victims. We were dragged into this thing called Christianity, which was greeted our own religion as traditionalists, where we believed strongly in our ancestry and spirit mediums and things like that. So there is a belief and a false notion that when one dies, they must go with their body to be able to rise. And the Bible hasn't helped. They talk about reincarnation. It's not for me to say whether it's right or wrong, but I believe those are the origins of this deep-seated view that a person must die and go and be buried in whole. The fact that there is talk about Jesus Christ rising and going to heaven in his body doesn't help either, because it all speaks to the body, the body, the body. But the mere fact that John has died, and we now ask, where is his body? Body yabva here ku cemetery, yabva here ku mortuary, yabva here kuma undertakers, body ya papi. Why do we suddenly call it body and not continue to call it John? That in itself makes a statement that John is gone. What is left is the body that needs to be accommodated somewhere. And what's this thing about holding on to the body that we must continue to have the body? I think we need to begin a discussion about cremation, because we just don't have the space. It's as simple as that, regrettable as it is. In my rural home where I was raised, we have 2 cemeteries. These 2 cemeteries, when I was a little boy and I was leaving my village, which is 40 years ago, these cemeteries were each about 2 hectares. I haven't been to visit them in the recent past, but I will not be surprised if they are 3-4 times that. Now, that's 3-4 times land that we have robbed from agriculture. We need to continue to feed. How are we going to feed ourselves if we are giving up all this land? And I'm talking about this land that is occupied without talking about the people that are buried pachuru mu Zimbabwe. If those were also in that cemetery, what would it be? Regardless of where they are, we have robbed ourselves of land. Because even pachuru pachepa pachagona uteishwa. Pachuru pachepa pachagona kurima. And generally kana tikarima pachuru ndipo pane fertility yakawanda, even kana tiri a poor family tinokoa. So why are we putting it to burial? It's a controversial discussion. I'm not afraid of it. We have to face it. A day has to come when we start to do something about that. Have we ever asked ourselves why tichienda ku Warren Hills, tichinoviga hama dzedu, tichienda kumbudzi, tichienda kupi kwatinonoviga hama dzedu, and hatisi kusangana nevarungu? Avafe? Vari kufa. But vari kuendepi? Vari kupiswa. So kana ivo vachipiswa, chinotadzisa kupiswa chi? What makes us think kutiko murungu is a different animal to us? The only difference is pigmentation. Everything else is the same. Murungu anodya, murungu anorwara, murungu anorara hope.
But judging from the burials that you are having at your cemetery, do you think that we are ready to consider cremation and having more than a single burial in a single plot?
Well, I'm encouraged. At least at our cemetery, we have what we call bunker graves, where we are burying more than one body. And I must emphasize at this point that the second body that comes is your relative, for God's sake. So people must not think we are going to bury a stranger. It'll be your relative. Because your relative will come. It's a given. That is the beginning. We've also started burying ashes. And yes, the idea of cremation is growing. It has been expedited by the fact that we have relatives in the diaspora. It's cheaper to transport ashes from America, England, Australia, wherever, Dubai, than it is to transport a whole body. So it's happening. Even locally, it's happening. I am aware of a number of families that have cremated. You know, the last one that impressed me, if impress is the correct word, was a 92-year-old black Zimbabwean male. He was cremated. And the other day I visited his aging wife, and the family is talking along similar lines of cremating him. So we are getting there. But I think it is not just about education. I believe government must legislate. Government as a responsible authority, administrator entrusted in our welfare, have a duty to make sure that in their planning they start to force us to cremate, because those after us will be sorry. But if I look at Europe, I don't think they will be sorry, because there is a thing called exhumation. So those of us who are not going to accept it, are not going to prepare themselves for it, sadly, your bodies are going to be pulled out by somebody who is going to cremate them and make way for agricultural land. It's happening in Germany now. In Germany now, graves are rented. You can't buy a grave. You rent it for 35 years maximum, and after 35 years, your body is removed, cremated, or the bones are, buried in a crematorium in a legacy fashion, so that you can follow, the family tree. So yeah, it's happening. It's not happening as fast, but I think we are getting there. And if we don't get there, we will be forced to get there.
Okay, so what I'm sensing here is that it has to be a collective effort of trying to educate each other the importance of land. If you look at the way Harare, as an example, is expanding, you can see that the need for land is there. And if we are going to waste land, burying the way we have been burying before, it will not be sustainable. But what I'm also getting is that the government has to come in and help through legislation to make sure that they provide for these things. But Mr. Mendes, something is quite interesting, and it's the word Etosha. Would you like to explain to us why Etosha, perhaps what it means? Does it have any special meaning to you or in relation to burying people?
My understanding and my Google information tells me that Etosha comes from the people of Namibia, or the Nambians of Namibia. Etosha is associated with salt pans. It is reminiscent of whiteness. And we found the word Etosha appropriate because it is talking about tidiness. And if you come into our cemetery, we have committed to not having a jungle after our residents have been accommodated. We have created a committee of elders. Our committee of elders have been empowered with real estate. When our cemetery is full and we are done as a business, we will surrender our cemetery to the committee of elders. And with their real estate, they will use rental income to maintain the cemetery. We just cannot accept what we see in most cemeteries. Most cemeteries, 3-5 years after the person has passed, they are abandoned. They are bush. They are used for some ungodly things that we can think of. From people that are making pots and pans to people that are using them for their laundry, amongst other things. We do not accept that. We want to make sure that as we are passionate about demystifying death, as we are led by Etosha, this whiteness that represents perfection, we want our cemetery to be the perfect destination that will remain memorable into perpetuity. That's how our cemetery has been structured.
So that we just clear, are you telling me that Etosha Cemetery provides an infrastructure whereby if I bury my relative, there will be maintenance of the grave backed by some rental income that is coming from a property that's owned by Etosha? Is that the case?
That is correct. The property is not owned by Etosha. The property, we have created a trust. It's called the Committee of Elders of Etosha. The Committee of Elders is a trust that doesn't die, doesn't belong to anybody. It is administered by committee members. And that trust owns real estate. And the real estate is in Adelaide and Rockview, where we have given them houses. Instead of being selfish and keeping the profit to ourselves, we have invested that profit in real estate for our trust, so that our trust can fly our flag after we are all gone. Yes, that's what happens in our cemetery. In our cemetery, we do not allow a mound 6 months after you are buried. Zvirango zvenyu, hari dzenyu, pfuko dzenyu nezvamunouya nazvo zviya zviya, we ask that you allow us to remove them. You can take them home if you want. Or we can talk about that separately. But there will be no mound in our cemetery 6 months after we are buried. We will flatten the ground, and we can show you a clip, or anybody is invited. Behind Rua Golf Club, get to Goromonzi 10 off, 10 right coming from Harare, 10 left coming from Mutare. 1 kilometer over the railway line, you are in our cemetery. Be our guest. Come and see our cemetery. If you see a mound, it is because the 6 months is not yet up. Why 6 months? It's because we want the ground to settle. So in our cemetery, if you die outside the rainy season, we will ram the grave, so that the ivurinator solidify. Kuti guva risazodirika. And then after 6 months, we will build a border and we will dress up the grave so that it is presentable. And I'm proud to say that once a year we have a memorial for all our residents. We invite their relatives and they come to our memorial. And this year our memorial was on the 24th, because historically we've set it down for August. But this year we've had to move it to end of September because of elections. We didn't want to be in the way, for those campaigning. So at the memorial we are celebrating. And when we have our memorials, you should come and see. People are coming for picnics on Memorial Day. They bring their relatives, they have a meal together, and they put flowers on the graves. We are very encouraged. We are most impressed by the responses that we are getting from society. But we know our society. Our society is a command-driven society. This society does nothing of their own creation or for their own making. They need to be led by somebody. And we believe that it is our duty to lead society into this, exactly the same way as our brothers in the parlors lead society in preparing their relatives, and putting them in the coffin and helping you take delivery of the body to go home and ultimately to the resting place. It is our duty to prepare a society in that area. So preparedness for us is a big word. It represents many things because it comes from many angles.
Wow. So, what I'm getting here, Mr. Mende, is that you are telling me that if I'm going to bury my relative at Etosha Gardens, I do not have to worry about the maintenance because that will be taken care of. But in addition to that, you are also telling me that once a year we have this memorial where people who have their relatives or their close friends buried at Etosha Cemetery, they come together and they have a day, talk to each other, perhaps about their relatives, a way to bring all those people together, which is something I've never heard of, and it's quite encouraging. And hopefully this year we'll be there to witness that.
You're welcome. Yeah, certainly. Society must not just say that we are there to look after their relatives. Yes, once you have brought the body, they are our relatives as well, and we're probably the principal relative ahead of you. But we want this to be a collective effort, which is why we've started with the memorial services, so that you come in and you bring flowers. And we're slowly beginning to educate you about planting flowers on your relative's grave, you know, the lawn, bringing in pebbles, bringing in granite, all kinds of, all manner of decoration, just to make them comfortable in where they are, because they can no longer do it for themselves. So the committee of elders has two responsibilities. One is to maintain the cemetery, and two is to keep the families interested and involved in looking after the cemetery. So the committee has staff, but you know, staff are staff. They do not have the connection that family has. So we would like family to be a part of it, and we believe as family gets in, you know, wrapped into this, the work that we will do on the ground as workers will be better than we will do without their contribution.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mende, for that. So you see, issues to do with death generally are unbearable, but with a little bit of preparedness, Rufu Rwakarongeka, you can make it more bearable. So we are open to your questions. You can put them below the link, and we will take them in the next segment. Until next time, have a wonderful day. Thank you.
A journey of life. With every drop of water comes life. With every life comes memories. Each memory that is shared creates a legacy to be remembered. Etosha Gardens, your cemetery of choice.